Ever wonder what's going on like behind the scenes when a company needs something? Anything. Like we're talking about those deal makers you never see.
Procurement agents.
Yeah, procurement agents. And we're going to take a deep dive into how their commissions actually work. Just for you. We've got some insider info on like industry standards and even some real world examples of, what can make those fees go way up.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating world. I think most people don't even consider, the dance,
Yeah.
the intricate dance of negotiation and logistics, industry knowledge that goes into every single product you see on a shelf or, every service agreement.
Let's unpack that a little bit. What is a procurement agent for those who maybe aren't familiar with that term?
In the simplest terms, they're the link. They're the crucial link between a company that needs something and the suppliers who can get it for them. But it's not just placing an order, right? They're expert negotiators. They're legal wizards.
Oh, wow.
Navigating contracts, they're logistics gurus, making sure that their client gets the best possible deal.
So not your average, online shopping experience.
No, not quite.
Okay, so
Just imagine a company wants to launch a new line of, let's say, sustainable activewear. They need a very specific type of recycled fabric, ethically sourced, of course, and at a price point that meets their margins. The procurement agent is who makes that happen.
that actually sounds incredibly valuable.
Oh, it is.
And I'm guessing their compensation probably reflects that, right?
Absolutely. The industry standard for procurement agent commissions, it typically sits somewhere between 2 to 5% of the total purchase value.
2 to 5%. That seems, I don't know, almost modest considering they're potentially sourcing, millions of dollars worth of goods and services.
It might seem modest at first glance, but let me break it down for you.
Okay.
One of the articles that you shared cited a case study where a tech firm was looking to source components for a new smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got one. The deal was worth tens of millions of dollars, right?
Oh.
And the agent's 2% commission, just 2%, translated to a 7-figure payout.
Wow. Yeah,
That was so small anymore.
that really puts it into perspective.
Right.
With a range that broad, though, what are the factors that really influence where an agent's commission falls on that scale?
Yeah, it's not one size fits all, that's for sure. One of the major factors is the industry itself. So sourcing luxury fabrics, for example, that's a good example because it's got its very limited suppliers, intricate quality control. That's going to command a very, very different fee structure than, say, bulk ordering wheat, for example. The complexity of the product itself plays a huge role.
So a more like niche or specialized industry generally means a higher potential commission for the agent.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can take another good example is international procurement, an agent that's dealing with customs regulations, volatile currency exchanges, the complexities of global shipping. I mean, they're taking on a lot more risk and responsibility. Right?
Yeah.
So naturally, their commission is often going to exceed that kind of standard 5% to reflect that added risk and responsibility.
It sounds like we're talking about a whole other level of expertise in those cases.
Absolutely. And this is also where we see regional differences come into play as well.
Okay.
Your research highlighted that Southeast Asia, for example, often sees slightly lower commissions, perhaps closer to 4% for complex procurement, whereas in North America, that figure might be higher. So a lot of it comes down to market competition
Right.
and the overall cost of doing business in that location.
So location, location, location. It really is a factor.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just geography. The size of the deal itself can actually have a big influence on how the commission structure works.
I would think, bigger deal, bigger commission, right?
Logically, yes.
Yeah.
You would think that, but it's not always the case. Sometimes those larger deals can actually lead to a lower percentage commission, not necessarily a smaller payout in the end, but a lower percentage. One of your articles had a really useful analogy.
Yeah.
It's talking about bulk discounts. So you go to the store, you buy one shirt, you're probably going to pay full price, right?
Great.
Buy a dozen,
Yep.
you'd expect some kind of a discount.
Yeah.
Same principle applies here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So an agent might be willing to accept a slightly lower percentage on a multi-million-dollar deal
Yeah.
because they're still making, a substantial amount for their time.
Right. So they're using their time more efficiently in a way.
Exactly. And it really highlights that, that win-win we were talking about earlier. Client benefits from a slightly reduced cost. The agent is still very handsomely compensated for their expertise.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Man, this is all really fascinating. I had no idea there were so many nuances to to something like an agent's fee.
Oh yeah, it gets even more interesting. Once we start talking about fixed versus variable commission structures. Remember how we said those percentages are really just like a starting point?
Right.
This is where the negotiation gets really interesting.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the difference between a fixed and a variable commission?
So a fixed fee, it's pretty straightforward. The agent and the client, they agree on a set amount up front
Mm,
before anything, regardless of what that final purchase price ends up being.
okay.
So this, it gives cost certainty for the client, which can be really appealing,
Mm,
especially when budgets are tight,
mm.
or if the procurement process is, relatively simple and straightforward.
So with a fixed fee, the agent's compensation is basically determined before they even start sourcing anything, right?
Exactly. Simplifies things from a budgeting perspective for sure. Now, on the other hand, a variable or a percentage-based commission, these are the percentages we were talking about earlier, it ties the agent's pay directly to how well they can negotiate.
Oh,
So the lower the price they're able to secure for the client, the higher their commission is going to be.
so it really incentivizes them to, fight for the best possible deal.
Precisely. It injects that extra little,
Yeah. Motivation.
motivation.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, to really drive down costs and secure the best possible optimal terms for their client.
I can see how that would be really appealing for a company that's, maybe really needs to cut costs or,
Absolutely.
is really looking for that
Yes,
best possible price.
absolutely. And it can be particularly effective when you're dealing with maybe a new supplier
Mm.
or a less established supplier where there might be a little more, wiggle room in the negotiations.
Right, right. So fixed versus variable.
Mhm.
How does a company how do they decide which structure is right for them?
Often comes down to, I think, a balance of their risk tolerance,
Mm.
and then the complexity of the procurement itself.
Yeah, a complex procurement. That sounds like a situation where you'd really need to have a lot of trust in the agent that you're working with.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a really key point I think that often gets overlooked. Choosing the right procurement agent, it goes way beyond, just comparing those commission rates on a spreadsheet or something like that.
Right, right.
It's about finding an expert who really understands your company, your values, your risk tolerance, your long-term goals even. It's a big decision.
So it sounds like we're talking about more of almost like a strategic partner as opposed to just somebody who's, handling the paperwork.
Exactly. A strategic partner.
Yeah.
Because you're trusting them to navigate, sometimes very complex negotiations
Yeah.
on a global scale, potentially. And of course, to make sure that every single deal aligns with your company's ethical, and financial standards as well.
Yeah, that actually makes me think about transparency. We've talked about all these factors that go into these commission rates,
Right.
but how does that conversation actually happen? I mean, is there like a standardized contract? Is it more of a negotiation in itself?
It's a great question. And yeah, transparency is absolutely essential in this business, no question. Typically, that commission structure, it's discussed and agreed upon up front, right at the beginning during that initial contracting phase.
Okay.
That's where both sides really need to be, upfront and open about their expectations. Put it all out there on the table, so to speak.
So no surprises down the road when it comes to, what the fees are actually going to be.
Ideally, no. No surprises, clear communication.
Mm.
That's key, really, I think, to a successful partnership in any business, really,
Yeah.
but definitely in this one. And, it's also worth remembering, I think, that the agents value it. It extends beyond just getting the lowest price, right?
Right.
They're managing risk. They're ensuring quality control, often handling all these intricate logistics. Sometimes they're even navigating huge cultural differences when you're talking about these international deals.
Yeah.
That expertise,
Yeah.
that has its own inherent value. Don't discount that.
It's like they become kind of an extension of your own team in a way, working, behind the scenes to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, an extension of your team. Because, when you find that right procurement agent, it's like gaining almost like a strategic advantage in the entire marketplace.
That's huge.
It is.
This has been incredible, I gotta say. I feel like I've gotten like this whole new appreciation for the world of procurement, honestly.
It's one of those fields, isn't it, that often flies under the radar,
It really is.
but it plays such a vital role in the global economy, really. Every product you see, every service agreement, chances are a procurement agent They were involved somewhere along the way.
They're the unsung heroes of the business world.
In a way, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Makes you wonder, I mean, knowing what we know now, what would our dream procurement project be?
Oh, wow.
And what kind of commission would that command? Right. I mean,
Now, that's an interesting question. That's a great question. Given the global nature of all of this, I think for me, it would have to be something with, maybe a little international intrigue.
okay.
Maybe sourcing some kind of rare earth mineral, for example,
Mm.
for, a brand new technology.
Okay. Yeah.
Having to navigate, all those complex trade regulations and those cultural nuances that we talked about
Absolutely.
and the commission. Well, let's just say it would have to reflect the high stakes
Mm.
and, the overall impact
Yeah.
of such an important venture.
I
Yeah.
having to picture the headline now. Listener sources rare mineral, negotiates global deal, retires on commission alone.
There you go. There's your headline. I
Exactly.
like it.
Well, hey, this has been a fascinating deep dive, I think, into the world of procurement agent commissions.
You spent the
I think we can all agree that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye at first glance, right? We've
Yeah.
got, industry and the size of the deal and the location and even the expertise of the agent.
That's a multifaceted thing.
Yeah, all playing a role in how that commission is ultimately calculated.
Absolutely. And I think perhaps, the biggest takeaway for our listeners today is that a procurement agent, if you find the right one, they could be a really, really powerful ally in achieving your business goals,
Yeah.
whatever those goals might be.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, though, yeah, don't underestimate that value
Yeah.
of that expertise and the impact they can have on your,
The bottom line.
on the bottom line.
The
Exactly.
wise words to end on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, happy sourcing, everybody.